The Z-42 is a tier 10 German destroyer that is the latest steel ship to be added into the game. Coming in at a price of 27,000 steel, she's priced equivalently with Ragnar and Plymouth, but is she a good choice to spend your hard-earned steel on? Let's find out. So what actually is the Z-42, you may be asking? Well, for a start, she's horrifically confusingly named, but apart from that, she's actually very interesting. She borrows traits from a multitude of different lines. She has similar gun performance to the Elbing branch, with the caliber and rate of fire of the Harugumo line, with a mix of consumables between the British and German destroyers. She ends up being sort of an Elbing Harugumo Z-52 daring mix, but does this work? Or is she just another example of too many cooks in the kitchen? Let's start with the firepower, which is both absolutely incredible and absolutely awful depending on the shell you're using.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
I'm in a glass half full kind of mood, so let's start with the positive side, which is her absolutely ludicrous AP performance. She proves that size, or at least caliber, doesn't matter, as despite her small caliber size of only 105mm, her AP salvo damage is almost the same as Elbing, and given that her reload is almost half of the Elbing, her AP DPM is absolutely ludicrous, only being behind Harugumo and Marceau. Now, this AP does not have the same ridiculous penetration as Elbing. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Z-42 has some of the worst penetration of any tier 10 destroyer, and she also has the normal short fuse time on her AP rounds. This means that she almost always gets full pens on destroyers that show broadside to her, allowing you to absolutely dumpster enemy DEs who give you broadside at the fight. It's not uncommon to get multiple 8k salvos in the same gunfight against enemy destroyers. This is also still enough pen to go through cruisers at close range and absolutely destroy them, albeit she doesn't have any improved ricochet angles on these AP rounds, so as soon as they start turning, you better switch to HE. Oh yeah, her HE. Well, her HE DPM is way less impressive than her AP DPM. I mean, it's lower than Hayate for fuck's sake. However, there is one saving grace for her HE. She has 26mm of default pen due to being German, which means that if you take IFHE, her HE has the magic 32mm of pen to be able to go through most things at her tier. Now, of course, you do absolutely kill her fire chance for this, but you can more than make up for this by taking fire flags and the demolition expert skill. In my opinion, IFHE is almost mandatory on Z-42, as if your target is angled, you have almost no other way of doing consistent damage to your targets. You can't always just rely on fires. Her guns have respectable range too, although their turn speed is glacial, so grease the gears is another mandatory skill in my opinion. She's also only got standard destroyer accuracy, which is to be expected, I guess. Otherwise she'd make Elbing completely redundant. You know what wouldn't be redundant? Subscribing to the channel, and don't forget to enter the 1000 subscriber giveaway linked in the pinned comment and the description. So her guns are one part of the pie that makes her magic in my opinion, but what's the second? Well, it's her consumables. Let's start with the consumable which you might not expect, which is the British Short Burst Smoke Generator. Whilst these only last 40 seconds, just like me, you get 6 of them, and they recharge in just over a minute. These are incredibly flexible for whatever you need, be it breaking vision from enemies, hiding from aircraft, covering your allies, or smoking yourself to use your fantastic firepower. But this smoke, in combination with her other consumable, is almost downright overpowered. The combination of her short burst smoke and the German 6km range hydro is absolutely brutal. Her smoke duration may be short, but with her ridiculous DPM, if you manage to catch a destroyer out broadside, her smoke will more than last long enough to dispatch of your opponent without getting you spotted. Even outside of your smoke, your great detectability of only 6.2km means that you only have 200 meters between getting spotted and your hydro spotting the enemy. And if you take the hydro mod, which you definitely should, your hydro will last for 3 smoke deployments, which is insane. This gives you an incredible ability to dictate the fight against enemy destroyers in and around cap circles. Your only real threats are other hydro-equipped destroyers, most of which you obliterate in a gunfight, or the Smaland, which is admittedly a very real danger as she's better than you in almost every single way. So, Z-42 has all the tools to make her an absolute bully in and around cap circles, but how well does she deal with enemy capital ships? Well, her torpedoes are no slouches. They don't deal the highest damage, they aren't the fastest, but they have respectable range and she has 8 of them, which is more than enough of a deterrent for anyone to push her smoke, especially knowing they will be spotted by her hydro beforehand. But can she move? Well, yes and no. Her speed is middling with the standard engine boost for destroyers, but she has one of the quickest rudder shifts and tightest turning circles of any tier 10 destroyer, which again aids to her toolkit in a close range knife fight. So there must be some downsides, right? Well, yeah, of course. Her health pool is pretty low for the tier, and she's also, of course, incredibly weak to radar. She relies on her good stealth and her smoke screens to stay hidden and deal incredible amounts of damage, and having a lot of radar in a match totally negates that. She's also weak in carrier matches because of the same reason. If a carrier decides to hyperfixate you and keep you permanently spotted, your influence on the battle will be incredibly limited. She's also not really able to carry super well because she relies on getting broadsides and catching her opponents off guard. You can still do a lot of damage if you're being focused, but you have to rely on her HE rather than her AP because her opponents will not give you broadsides once they know how much you hurt. But these are pretty much the only downsides she has. In the right matchmaking, she's borderline broken if you have hands to play her with, and even in a bad matchup, she's still pretty strong and fills her role as a knife fighter who can also harass enemy capital ships very well. With all that being said, I'm going to squeeze her in at the high tier in the tier list. She's very powerful in the right situation, but she has weaknesses that balance her out in other ways. If you enjoy knife fighting destroyers and know how to juggle consumables, I definitely recommend picking her up. She's a boatload of fun to play. And with Smile Unbanned, I imagine she could become a pretty strong pink for clan battles too. Poor Z-42, she's even more obsolete now. I warn you though, this ship does have a pretty high skill floor. If you don't really know what you're doing with destroyers in close range, I would recommend taking something like a Stalingrad for steel instead. If you like a captain build and equipment loader for this ship, go for something like this. This is not taken from the Google Doc because, well, the ship's not out yet. Check back there soon and there should be a build in there shortly. As always, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed, dislike if you didn't, and let me know what you think in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. Don't forget to enter the giveaway in the pinned comment below, and join me on Sunday 19th February at 5 PM GMT on my Twitch channel, also down below, where I'll be drawing the winner live. See you there. I'll be streaming for a few hours beforehand as well. Now go out there and make Shimikazes cry.